Greetings. I'm Falasha Khan, the host of Unscripted Conversations. We have an incredible show in store for you about dating while Black and the complexities in finding love, devotion, and connection. We'll hear from Jay Rick Hayes, Nasa Shelley, and Oluwafemi Sani. Let's get into the show. I'm panelists brought up some incredible topics. One that I want us to hone in a little bit more on is the concept of the inverted sexual marketplace. We are very aware of the fact that as Black women age, our chances for reproducing does decrease, right? Our prime reproductive years go down as we increase in age, whereas the man's ability to increase his financial assets increases with his professional with his professional success, right? And so it is somewhat of an inverted demand. If we're looking at things from a typical traditional dating role concept of the man being the provider, the woman being the nurturer. So with that said, I know Gamer touched on that specific marketplace. So I want to hear a bit more about you. What's the state of the marketplace? What is the state of Black women and men's dating circumstances right now?
Oh yeah, well, the State of the Union address for the Black community and the dating market is that if women are not going to get married in their prime years, you're going to have to deal with a sexual marketplace until you die. And so, currently, the Black community, unfortunately, when it comes to marriage rates, we're not winning. We're currently losing. 26% of women are getting married. One in four is going to marry in their lifetime. 80% of women are the ones filing for divorce, right? So it's not the issue with men not being available or they're not around or they're not in my city. Uh, Question is becoming an accountability for a community to say, hey, maybe we got this thing wrong, and maybe you shouldn't be investing your first 10 years after college being selfish, traveling the world, going to brunch, not really understanding and studying men the way that you studied your college degree or your nonprofit or the way you wanted to be um, distant and socially awkward in terms of those skill sets. Um, and I think this is where we're at now because I mentioned earlier, women want to be with the top 20% of earners. And then when you ask them the quantitative questions about the type of family life, lifestyle they want, it doesn't match and compute with actually the kind of man they can actually get based on their market value, right? So we all know that geriatric pregnancy is at 35. And the closer, if women think that they are the prize and they have all this time in the world to figure it out, that's where they got this thing wrong. Because if they're not willing to invest in the very men they see promise and a future with uh, in their 20s in college, then this is where it's you get men that's going to win at the end of the day because they get to figure it out for a lifetime. I was in grad school and I was seeing women in undergrad getting married, but when I was at an undergraduate HBCU, did not see no women getting married. And I think it's because culturally we just didn't enforce that kind of uh, expectation that you can in parallel get an MRS degree as well as a BS degree. And so it's not about saying that, women are the problem or men are the problem. We've got to build better standards for our community. My mother, my grandmother, and my aunts weren't worrying about hot girl summer or trying to travel over the world or go to brunch or, I don't need a man and being strong and independent. There's consequences for these behaviors. And so this is where I think women are running into a wall. And so I, the goal is to see uh, family life be sustained and not, become non-existent. Dr. Cornell Wells said that family is a major vehicle through which history and memory can be preserved in the face of a culture that defaces history and erases memory. Now, if you look at the evolution of the family and marriage, and people were getting married based on arrangements and reasons that had to do with irresponsibility or options for uh, just behavior that was trying to be avoided. But if you now go to 2022, Well, if you're talking about WAP and you're talking about sexual just liberation, you realize this is not what men want at the table. And I think this is where we got to have the conversations like, hey, I like you, you like me. What is your desires? And let's collaborate. There's got to be sacrifices and trade offs. And going into a conversation with any man that you desire of value, he's going to want something from you. And I think this is the question where women have to ask or hold each other accountable like, hey, what what are we willing to sacrifice and invest in that we unfortunately weren't told by our mothers and our aunts?
I saw a lot of gestures, so I'm a yield if in case you
Shout
want
out to
to chime in.
gestures.
And you see that because I'm not, I don't want to say that anything that J. said is not facts, right? Like the statistics are there. That is what it is. But, you know, one, you can't really say that we didn't learn it from our moms and our aunts because who do we learn it from? But it didn't just start with our generation. But if you take it back further than that, like we're now living longer than ever before, right? So when our great grandmothers were getting married, our great great grandmothers were getting married, and they were, living into their 50s and maybe their 60s. Now we're living into our 80s, and we're economically empowered. And I understand what J-Rick is saying. Like you have to come to the table and say, like, what is it as a culture that we want in the end? Do we want to have children and have the people who are the best in our community reproducing, right? And feeding into our society, creating generational wealth and adding to the lineage of Black people as a whole? That is the question, right? Because if that's what you really want, then that really forces you and pushes you into a marriage mindset. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I have a question. Are men gonna evolve or not? Right? I'm just listening to what Jay Rick just said, right? So women, we're going to college, we want to travel the world and do everything and do all of that. But when we come to the table, right, we still cook and clean and bear the children. We still take the time off of work to raise those children. We still care for households. Black women are some of the most traditional women, period, when it comes to marriage mindset and like taking care of home. And that's facts, right? And so when you think about it, it's like, so men, what evolutionary mindset are you bringing to the table? If you're just coming to the table and saying, well, I got this, right? Like I'm going to be looking like Idris Elba in my 50s and my 60s. I'm going to have more money. I'm going to have more access to more vagina and more, I can have babies whenever I want. Then what are you bringing to the table to solve the problem? Because you're not saying, you know what? I need to be prepared as a man to help more in the household. I need to be prepared as a man to understand that I'm going to have to take on more responsibilities with child rearing. I need to understand as a man that making the money is not going to be enough anymore, right? For our lineages to go on because we want to be happy. I need to understand as a man that I can't just step out on my wife, sleep with other people, have these babies out of wedlock, be embarrassing her in the streets because I can, and think that she's not going to file divorce, right? Jay Rick already said that women file divorce more frequently than men. And that's not just because we get tired of y'all, right? Like we have reasons why we say, you know what, we are done with this and we want to move on and we'll be self-sustaining. So my question to the men is, we're already doing all this over here. We're becoming educated. We're increasing our economic value and bringing more to the table as a family unit. We're still trying to give y'all what y'all want, be sexy and do all of this stuff. But what are gonna shift? When are you gonna shift and realize that you have to do more than just make money?
Are you looking for content authentically created by and for the Black community? Visit Unscripted.tv, an SVOD platform for Black audiences that's free and Black-owned and operated. No other platforms for Black audiences offer 24-hour free streaming and on demand. Join the creators and businesses building a meaningful fan base through cooperative economics. It's Black, it's free, it's unscripted. Visit us online and download on your devices.
going to shift? When are you going to shift and realize that you have to do more than just make money?
And I think this is now when we say now we're starting to get to the crux of this, because before I think we were surface level. I think when it comes to black men and women, to be exact, there's so much like animosity, whether it's passed down from generations to generations. There's so much um, you know, stuff that's actually projected and not always reality. For example, I have a foundation company called Melanated Fathers. You know what I'm saying? When you talk about when are men going to evolve, you're looking at an evolved brother, and I'm not just going to say I'm like the only one. Like the group of men that I'm around who are fathers, they do the same thing. Their wives or girlfriends or whatever aren't letting them off the hook, and they don't want to be left off the hook, because we want to do that too. We want to bond. Like, we're humans, and these children we brought into the world as well. So I feel good waking up at 2 a.m. If my daughter's crying, I'm picking her up. Like, it's not like I'm gonna be like, man, go do that. No, we're not doing that. So I think enough of that is not being televised, and that's exactly why I started Melanated Fathers, because I wanted to not only celebrate, us as men and fathers, but I also want to reach out to the future generations and like, yo, there's nothing wrong with this. This is cool to be active in your kids' lives. That's not a negative. That's a plus, because guess what? Now we're helping nurture the minds of those children. Now they have positive self-esteem. It's not just their moms that gets to bond with them and things of that nature. So I think men of this generation than before, we're not only providing, we bringing the sexy too. We hitting the gym. You know what I'm saying? We hitting the gym. We getting into skincare as well. We trying to do it all, like more than any man in the history of time.
And I want to clarify before I turn it back over to J-Rick that I agree with you. And I don't personally have any animosity towards men, and especially not black men. I love black men. I love our people. And my animosity is towards the mind. It's towards the mindset, right? It's towards that Kevin Samuels mindset that is so reductive that women, there is truth in what he says, right? But you cannot land there and dwell there and stay there, right? You have to then take that kernel, that truth, and you have to push past it, right? So women, we're not just our physical beauty. Men, you are not just the money that you're able to bring to the table, but you have to believe that, and we have to believe that, right? And when you come to the table as a couple, you have to have that conversation about value. I can date a man that makes less money than me, right? What other value does he have, right, that he's bringing to the table? He's supportive. He's emotionally intelligent. He is consistent. He is family oriented. He shows up and he is loyal, right? Those are the things that men have to see as huge value propositions in themselves. And then men also have to start recognizing the effort that women are putting into being holistic, like, you know what I'm saying? And not just beautiful, but educated, smart, well-traveled. You have to also start putting value into what those other things that we bring to the table. That's how we kind of shift the paradigm, right? And then within our own families, we have to decide what works in our relationship. And it doesn't have anything to do with anything external, right? If me and J-Rick are together, the question and conversation I have with him is, how do we share? Am I shooting my shot? I'm not. But
I love it.
Shoot your shot.
I'm just like,
apply pressure.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, if that's the case, then we have to have a conversation about how do we make our relationship work, like divorced from what society tells us, you know what I'm saying, we should be doing. And so that really changes not just gender roles, but how we kind of value each other and really get into it as a couple, right? So that's just my perspective. But I love men, I love Black men. I think that y'all are not getting enough shine for the changes that you guys are making. And too much shine is being put on the mindset that is too reductive in our gender roles.
At the end of the day, we all need each other. I mean, men and women were not made to be in this world not to be fruitful and multiply. Again, women create access to sex and men create access to relationships and marriages. I mean, we haven't gotten to the point where the overarching lead about relationships and marriages, well, a woman's going to get down on her knee. Very, very minute situation, right? So the majority of those outcomes are going to be based on how men are, like you said earlier, it's vetting women, and the question is, women have to be aware, especially in their early 20s, that come to me all the time. Well, J-Rick, why didn't he choose me? And they're not men are not responsible for telling women subconsciously how you blew it. That's it. They're just going to keep it moving. They'll smash, they'll hit, they'll deal with you, they'll date you, they buy you a drink, but they're not going to take you seriously. And so we got to have these conversations about, okay, for the women that actually want an outcome, they want a ring on their finger, they want a championship outcome. What do I have to do to get on his desire profile so that way I'm treated seriously? Because men want to be in relationships. The evolution of man, thank God.
Facts.
For Black men, 54% are single and childless, and 62% in the middle class. We want to be in relationships, but
Very
you've got to
true.
be able to sit back, and you've got to be able to look at the marketplace and say, damn, I built myself up. I got a PhD. I'm doing great work. I'm involved in the church. I celebrated Women's History Month. But the marketplace isn't giving me the best product, though. This is the best that I get. I mean, so it's like the
But are
question
you saying
is,
that
men
the
are.
man needs that's the question the man's asking, or the question the woman's asking?
Well, I'm looking at it
That's
from
the question that
introspectively as a man, because you got to ask yourself, I built myself up to get to this place of productive, successive, and competitiveness, but this is the best that I get. And I'm talking about within the Black community, because I'm not even talking about outside of the Black community. And this is where Jazz Mondays is successful, because we bring different generations to help each other provide success and what best practices is. I would not depend on Generation Z, millennials, to be so self-directed and say, well, this is how we get it done. No, I'm going to talk to Generation Z, X, and baby boomers, because I have a aunt and uncle that just celebrated 50 years of marriage. It's just a different mindset, like Naza says. I'll be quite honest. Men don't care about women's education and what they do for a living. We don't. We want
facts.
sex, and we just want a feminine asset. That's it. Can you bring us peace? And we will fight to the death for you.
Peace.
We'll take a bullet for you. But the problem
Peace.
is now, 2022, men are saying, why do I need to take a bullet for this marketplace?
Combativeness.
I could go to another country, find someone that's just going to get with the program. So we want to be with each other, but we have to act like, we're willing to be open about having the hard conversations. I mean, to be quite honest, I think in our community, we don't talk about sex openly enough. We don't talk about mental health enough. And so it's more than just having a laundry list of things. You got to be able to say, hey, how do we make this sustainable, so that way we don't look like, well, we get together, we take posts and pictures and baby showers, but then we're divorced next week.
Yeah.
Interesting. And you touched
And
on a really important topic that we haven't gotten into just yet. Having sex, what is too soon? What is too soon and what is too long? These are expectations that I think we're not really talking about.
Anybody can become homeless at any time. Homelessness does not discriminate. Right now, I'm in the process of starting my own nonprofit sponsorship through Street Sense. It's called Face, Focus, Attitude, Commitment to Excellence. We're going to be engaging in those who are really severely unhoused, those people who are hard to reach, and those people who have really mental health issues that need professional help. DC is an enormous budget. We have $100 million housing trust fund that they can extrapolate money from for the budget. So it's just a matter of combining resources with other nonprofits who are engaging in the same activity and have the same goals.
I think we have the assumption that most people are dating for marriage and for long-lasting relationships, but some people are dating for sex and for enjoyment and for fun. So how does one navigate dating and relationships with these unspoken expectations? And the floor is open for anyone to jump right in for that.
I don't think there's no set time to have sex, but I do think it's better not to like lead with sex if you are actually trying to form some type of meaningful relationship or connection.
I'll just say that, I always give like the interview example. Some things are jobs and some things are careers, right? Some things you do because you want to get paid and pay the bills, and other things you do because you're building towards like the life that you want, right? So it's the same thing when it comes to how you give people access to your body and sex. So, you know, if you if you go into something clear headed and you're like, you know what, even as a woman, right? Like women are often like desexualized, but like we have physical needs and desires. And so if you're in the mindset of like, I just want someone to kick it with, it's cuffing season, it's cold, it's like whatever. And so you just want someone to have that, temporary relationship, just realize like that you might be applying for that Walmart job, right? And then like, but you're still potentially going to have to do that career building, right? If you want something meaningful, like people value things that they have to work for, period. Right? Like I value my law degree and my license as an attorney because I had to work my ass off for it. Right. And so I don't want anything that would jeopardize like my position as an attorney. Like if something comes really easily, then you just, okay, I can get that again. Or I can get that at another time or another place or another scenario. And so you have to make a decision when you're interacting with people, like what is it that you want out of them. So I tell women, if you're dating a guy that you want to be your husband, you have to comport yourself like a wife would comport themselves, right? And you have to make them invest in you. You have to make them, you have to get them over that physicality hump, right? You have to get them invested in you as a person on an emotional level. And if you jump right to sex, you short circuit that connection. And so, but if you see a guy and you're like, I would never marry him, right? But like, he's fine. It looks like he may be good in bed. Then you do you, right? As long as you understand like what it is that you're giving, that you understand the situation for what it is. Period.
We have to be authentic with our lived lives and how we're trying to self improve, because I think a lot of times, and I know it's challenging for women because it's like, well, if I say this and I say my body count, then I'm already excluded. So what do I do? That's where doing the work happens. I think once you heal and you learn to be more vulnerable, because there's so much strength in vulnerability and humility, men will start to work with even the least of those, right? You're not necessarily counted out just because of or your past history. But if you come into new relationships making present men pay for mistakes of the past men, that's just all cap in terms of, well, you're making me wait for 90 days for sex and I can just get it in less than 24 hours. It just, women have to understand these realities that, I mean, it's not pretty, but it's like, this is where men are thinking, well, why do I need to deal with this and go through landmines and climb walls when I can get it easier from her? Because you gotta remember, men are simple. If we like you, you remember Hey Arnold, when a person likes you, that's it. But if they like you, oh, it's a wrap. So men, when they like you, you just gotta figure out, okay, let me study this guy. What does he like? Okay, I don't like football, but I'll just throw on the jersey anyways. You know what I'm saying? You got to make him, you got to, I think for men, it's about brushing the ego, which is really important for men, bringing peace. But then I think for men, we've got to do a good job of being aware of, I don't know, being aware of how to be emotionally available for women. And I think because that could be a roller coaster. Um, but Nah, by the second date, but to be honest, by the second date, if you're having sex with a person. If you're not sexually attracted to a person, then it's not going to go far. And I think this is where I've talked to a lot of men and women who go through divorces. And unfortunately, I hear about how women they settle with the safe guy. The safe guy, if you don't already know, means a guy that can protect, provide, and lead, but then he doesn't necessarily have the swag. He doesn't have the kind of appeal that all her girlfriends at brunch want to actually be with. So it's about being somewhere in the medium. And I think a lot of people, men and women, don't know these kind of idiosyncrasies.
Can I just interject one small thing?
Definitely, go ahead.
Derek's, I think, one of my favorite people now. But I this is just my advice to ladies, like, don't tell nobody your body count.
Period.
Don't, like, it is none of his business. And if he cares that much, then move along. But in the end, I mean, I just feel like people do not understand that this is an audition, right? Like, so you have to be authentic. You have to be yourself. I completely agree with that. You have to, like, but everybody doesn't deserve everything right away, right? And so one of the things that we have a problem with is we're oversharing. We're sharing all traumas on the first date. We talking stuff about our exes on the first date. If you ask me how my exes were, they were all fantastic. They all knew exactly how to treat me. None of them ever cheated on me. They are top-notch men. I have nothing bad to say about any of them. It just didn't work out. You're gonna ask me about my ex relationships on, like, within, like, the first 3 dates. Like, I don't have nothing negative to say. And that's because I believe that type of information I share when the time is right and the place is right. So we all have to take context clues, like, and have situational awareness, right? And you could approach it in two different ways, right? If this is going to scare him off, it's going to scare him off, right? So let me just put it all out there at the beginning, and if he walks away, he walks away. Or you could potentially have the mindset of, everybody can accept a lot, right? Everybody can accept a lot when told at the right time and at the right point in a relationship. I'm gonna give y'all just a really quick anecdote, like a funny anecdote as a joke, right, or as a story. So I went a couple dates with this guy, and, like, and he messaged me. I was leaving the gym. He's like, "Oh, I meant, like, maybe we went on, like, 1 or 2 dates, right? Like, it wasn't even that deep, like, very superficial, high level." I'm leaving the gym, and he's like, "Oh, we're texting. I'm on the buses when I was living in DC. Oh, what's up? Oh, I'm headed out. I'm headed home from a tough workout. Oh, okay. I bet you're super sweaty." I'm like, "Yeah, I am super sweaty. Like, it was a hard, tough day. I would love to smell your clothes. Smell my workout clothes." And you know how you try to give somebody an out and you're like, "That's so funny. Like, I'm sure you're joking." He's like, "No, legit. Like, I would like to smell all the things that you're wearing." Now, the lesson from this story is, like, he just let his freak flag fly, right? And he went the one direction, which is just like, look, either she's going to accept my weirdness or she's not going to. And I did not, right? I did not take it well, right? But say on out on a bunch, more dates with him. Say that I had become intimate with him, right? Say that we had built a bond of trust or whatever. Do you think that I don't think I would have cared if he wanted to smell my smelly gym clothes? I would have been like, "Yo, that's super weird." But, like, everybody got something weird. You know what I'm saying? So, like, here, like, you weirdo. You know what I'm saying? But, like, I would have already left him. Yeah, he's like, "It's not that weird. It's not that weird to want to smell someone's dirty."
I'm saying you said. I'm saying you said everybody got something weird, but I'm like, but not that level weird. Like, why?
Right, but to me, I'm kind of like, everybody has everything, but it has something. But the more invested someone is in you, the more likely that they're going to be accepting of what that thing is that you're presenting to them, right? Like that's what I mean by it's timing, it's situational, it's like reading the room. And he decided to go one way, which is just put it all up front. When, yeah,
Nah,
too soon. When he could have gone a different way and potentially gotten a different outcome, I guess is the point.
I mean, it's nothing wrong with have like you said, we're all weird in to some extent. But why? What is you smelling dirty gym clothes for? That's mind boggling to me. I can't. I'm trying to grasp that,
I feel like
but
guys have
hey,
asked for panties. Oh, can I have a pair of panties that you have? Like, I mean, that's not necessarily
What?
considered.
Yeah,
Is that weird? Is that not a thing? I feel like
hey,
I don't
hey,
think
Jay
it's
Rick,
weird.
you coach men, so maybe you can enlighten us when it comes to this, brother. Yeah, I'm trying to understand. Is this a common thing with brothers where like they do have these kinks where they smelling dirty gym clothes and
I tell you,
panties?
and this is the beautiful thing about when you I'm gonna be honest with you, man. Out in the market, you're not going to find a lot of people. When I introduce myself and I talk about being whole, that's real, like dead ass, like big facts. But you won't find people that will be excited, exuberant, enthusiastic about. Oh, glad to meet you. I just want to let you know I'm certified in being whole. Now we're all work in progress, but people have to got to you got to be able to elaborate exactly your journey because again we are all work in progress. We all have idiosyncrasies. I mean, I meet women who they think they're embarrassed by trying to meet men because they're not going to like anime. No, there's a lot of men that like anime, and then men that say, well,
Exactly,
I like video games. Well, no, there's a lot of women that like video games. I think you've
exactly.
got to be able to know who you are, be proud about who you are, and then you will
Facts,
ultimately attract that type of energy. We
facts.
do too much of. I think the guys that I coach a lot is they're chasing the type of women they really don't need to be aligned with, and vice versa. Women are chasing or picking, I should say, bad choices in men that they know they shouldn't be with, right? And but yeah, you got to know who you are. If it was up to me, you would not allowed to be out here on the dating market unless you've been certified whole, certified. You got a therapist, certified. You've
Thank
amen.
you.
you've done
I
some
agree.
things that have allowed you to be able to reset and fine tune your individual self. Um,
I agree with that.
and this is the thing we have to teach it also, man, to people in their 20s and in really our 20s. There's compatibilities, there's chemistry, and there's connection.
Yep.
And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people don't understand the difference between the three.
Difference.
Connection being
Mm-hmm.
the highest outcome, right? And if you're spiritual, it works out because that spiritual guidance will allow you to say, you know what? Despite the chemistry, despite the compatibilities, I know this is the one God wants for me. But it's tough. It's tough. I don't talk a lot about spirituality because I understand the market, and the market says, well, most millennials don't go to church. Most millennials don't believe in God anymore. So that's cool because then I don't have to necessarily go the purist, tell you what you want to feel. But then this is when the ladies don't like the truth because then I give you the realist uh, responses and facts, and then it's like, whoa, this is how men really think. And so this is what we got to have the conversation.
What I love about what you've said is that it's true. Like what women need to know how men think. You need awareness of it, right? You need to accept it and then you need to make choices based on it, right? So if you're saying, okay, I'm not attracting the type of man I want, maybe it is your looks, maybe it is your weight, maybe it is, you know what I'm saying, like your personality, and you should invest in improving those things, right? As you're still searching for a man that looks for more than just those things, right? So I feel like you have to do the work on yourself to improve your chances of finding the type of person, attracting the type of person that you want to attract. But you can also be introspective and look for a connection that's deeper than that. Look for someone who looks for something deeper than that, even though you're able to bring it to the table.
Yeah, I mean, case in point, when I'm coaching women and I go through their dating apps, I mean, what they're stating on their dating apps just doesn't reflect really what men want. So you have all these serious, hard comments about, uh, well, I'm only looking for something serious. Don't waste my time. But then these are the same ladies that are obese and wearing bonnets, long eyelashes, and, and and it's not reflecting again what the market, the consumers, the men want. So it doesn't matter about your self-expression and trying to be liberal and free. That means you're going to lose when it comes to yielding high outcomes, at least with the type of men you want, you know. And so this is where we got to have coaches, people that can intervene and help people with their images. Because I'll be honest with you, my father told me the woman you need to be with for a lifetime is the woman that has self-respect for herself. When my aunt and uncle were, when my aunt was out in the fields, 50-year plus marriage, she said that they may not have had the education that most modern women have. But when they were out in the fields, older women were teaching them how to be wives, how to be women, and how to be attractive to the very, 'cause, like, think about it. All women at that period were all, let's just say they're all bad. They're all attractive. They're all fit. Very important, right? Fit, given even the Jim Crow South, but they understood how to be social. It's not men's job to be social, right? We come to you guys and we give you the news after the devastation, but it's going to take women to hold other women accountable and say, yo, sis, that ain't a good look. You know what I'm saying? And why does it have to always be that men have to tell the hard facts and the realities that are unflattering to you guys after devastation, heartbreak, and failure?
Yeah, thank you for going deep into some of the complications. I think the through lines that I'm getting is that there are so many different perspectives. I feel like I've heard a lot of traditional perspectives. I've definitely heard um, different perspective on what men think and what women think, and I think that's what makes dating so complicated. Is that we're not all aligned, right? We're not all thinking the same way. So I think that is another layer of why it's complicated. Not all women feel like they need to change who they are to be accepted by men, and not all men want a woman to change. And then there's the vice versa. So there's a lot to this conversation, and a lot of reasons why. I think this is revealing a lot of why we are in the position we're in now. Is because we're going through. There's a lot of nuances here. So I think in closing, because we could go on and on, we can go on and on about how complicated it is. But what do you all see as solutions? As how do we move forward? What is the best steps to move forward in terms of how to move forward? Now I want to start with Femi because I know you have a unique perspective. So I want to start with you.
Yeah, and I'll leave with this. Again, thank you guys for having me. It's been a pleasure, and I definitely have to connect with the both of you guys outside of here. I really appreciate the perspectives that you guys brought to the conversation. But in terms of what we can do, honestly, I think Rick alluded to it. I think it's funny. I was just thinking. I don't know if it was yesterday or today. I just think as a world, as a society, period, whether it's schools, whether it's our place of employment, I think it would, even the government, I think it would behoove people to really understand mental health and take it seriously, because I think a lot of the issues we have starts from childhood, whether it's childhood traumas, whether it's not seeing healthy examples of love in our homes, whether we didn't have the parents to model, a healthy dynamic between a man and a woman for us, whether it's, bullying growing up, whether it's past relationship hurt that we had, or unhealed things from those relationships. I think a lot of times we take it into our adulthood, and it continues to manifest in our different dynamics. So that's why I really believe mental health is such a huge component to knowing yourself, like accepting yourself, being sure of yourself, knowing your self worth. So when you know that even though this person may not accept me or I don't fit the mold of what they're looking for, it's not. It doesn't mean I'm not worthy of love. It doesn't mean I'm not enough. You can be enough, but you may not be the right person for that it's just that simple. Just because you don't work out, just because this relationship did not work out, don't mean the next one would. But we just have to know ourselves. We have to be good, kind-hearted people. We have to try to be good to other people and understand who we are. Understand whether what we're seeking is part of the problem, because sometimes we can be attracted to negativity or things that aren't conducive for the for the type of relationship that we desire. So we have to do a lot of that self work. We have to do a lot of that self analysis and that evaluation. And I think, being ingratiated, in some type of mental health service helps you do that. And so I think the society will be so much better off if that's something that we promote from a young age in our elementary schools all the way up. So for me, I think that's a solution. Just, you know, doing that self work, healing and unlearning things that we may have, taken as, oh, this is how I have to, do things. And I think being able to do that, we will be in better shape going forward.
Awesome, thank you. And I know, Kimmy, you have to hop. So can you tell all of our listeners where they can find you, where they can learn more about the work that you're doing?
Yes, definitely. You can find me on Instagram at Dr. Femdizzle. That's at DrFemDizzle. And also, you can check us out at Melanated Fathers on IG as well. Got my book here. I'm manifesting my queen essence. There's check out the link. My bio on Instagram. It'll take you directly to my website. I have a lot of things on there, so feel free to check me out and connect with me.
Awesome, thank you so much. And we appreciate you sharing and pouring so much with our listeners today and into this panel. So thank you,
Thank,
Kimmy. I'll pass
thank,
it
thank you
over.
for having me, and have a great one, guys.
Alrighty. And we're back. So thank you so much, Naza and J Rick, for giving our listeners so much. We've explored a lot of different nuances in the dating relationships between Black women and Black men. But I want to touch on solutions. So, from your perspectives, what are some of the ways we can move forward? I want to start off with Nessa and move over to J Rick after that.
Sure. So, I mean, I think these kind of conversations that are actually really fruitful are great. And having people who are putting in the work and interacting with singles is important, like in being real and honest with them about their prospects, right? And at Carpe Diem we have a three-prong mission. Like our first prong is to elevate Black women. The second one is to help create generational wealth in the Black community by through strong relationships and families. And the third one is we say give Black or give back, and we donate 5% of our profits to organizations doing amazing work in the Black community. And one of the things that's important to note is like the fastest way out of poverty is to be raised in a two income or two parent household, right? And so that's why it's so important for us to like keep our mission to creating these relationships center focus. And 95% of Black women are marrying and do marry Black men, and that's what they want. We want those strong relationships with amazing men that understand how to show up for us, and we understand how to show up for them. And I think that it requires uh, being realistic about what it is that men want and need, and that's something that Jay Rick brought up several times in the conversation. like being introspective about what it is that you're bringing to the table, holistically, right? And how that value proposition lines up against what men actually want and desire. And then understanding that, you know, the world is a big place, right? Like where you find love, like who you find love with, like you should be open to that avenue. And you compromise where compromise is warranted, right? And so you have to come to the table with like your non-negotiables, things that you really want and believe that are critical for you to have a long lasting and loving relationship. But you also have to be flexible in areas that it makes sense to give in, right? And make sure that you can compromise with a partner. So I mean, I think the solution is very like multifaceted. I would just say that we are seeing we're seeing progress like in the way that men are behaving in families, and women's our realization of, you know, the role that we need to play in our relationships, and we just kind of have to keep that trajectory going.
Love that. Love that. Okay. And now I want to pass it over to J Red to share his thoughts on how we move forward as a people.
Yeah, shout out to moving forward. You know, I we just have to keep hope alive. You know, I know it may seem daunting the task ahead of us in terms of maybe what the facts and the cold data is saying, but life is about love and relationships. It's about people, and I think where we've been so successful, Jazz Mondays, is uh, bringing people together to focus on what really matters, and that's what I was always my main objectives is how can I bring people together to make them feel, even if they're a transplant from another city, uh, that they just felt like they just left their grandmother's home. They just left with a hot plate. They left with some knowledge, but they feel empowered to actually do something about it, right? And I think that's the question. We've got to be willing and open to be able to interact with each other, listen, and with respect, right, and treat each other with dignity, so that way we can actually leave any space, safe or not, and say, you know what, I'm going to do better. We have so much opportunity to do better than where we are now. And Aristotle said this: excellence is never an accident. It's the result of high intention, sincere effort, and intelligent execution. It represents the wisest choice of many alternatives. And then he says this: that choice, not chance, determines your destiny. Choice, not chance, determines your destiny. So the question becomes, for modern men and modern women today in the marketplace, what are you choosing to do better, right? And you know, there's not everyone's not going to win, and there's going to be some losers, and I think that is one of the greatest narratives I think of our community is that, regardless of the social justice movements and the equality and classism, not everybody's going to want to drink the water. Not everybody's going to consume the knowledge and know better and do better. But I am optimistic. People who come to Jazz Mondays win. They win, and they yield high outcomes because of it. But as long as we can continue to work together, I think that'll make the world of a difference. We're we're so much better than this.
I love it. Awesome. So thank you both so much for, sharing your heart and your vulnerability today. Where can our listeners learn more about Carpe Diem and Jazz Mondays? I want to kick it off to you all to share how listeners can best contact you, reach out to you, learn more about what you do, and get connected. So I'm going to pass it over to Nasa to start.
Yeah, so Carpe Diem, we are an exclusive member-only dating community geared towards singles interested in dating professional Black women, and we power those interactions with professional matchmakers as well as a patented video-based dating app. And you can learn all about Carpe Diem on our website, which is Carpe, the letter D, the letter M, dating.com. You can apply to join our community. We do events, we do matchmaking, as well as we have the dating app, obviously, that you use to meet incredible singles. And then if you want to tap in with me, I'm Nasa Shelley on LinkedIn. And then I'm also Carpe DM Boss on Instagram. I'm very active, and I'm Nasa Shelley on Twitter as well. So if you want to follow Carpe Diem on social, then you can find us at Carpe Diem Dating across all social media platforms.
Love it, love it. So awesome. And now we want to pass it over to J. Rick. How can our listeners learn more about you and Jazz Mondays?
Oh yeah, this is the best part. Yeah, so I don't at people, so you got to get at me. So that means you can send me an email. I'm not on social media, fun fact, and you can send me an email if you want to learn more about Jazz Monday and be a part of this exclusive movement. Um, and you can email me at scholarking18@yahoo.com. Scholarking18@yahoo.com. And so, why is that important? Because life again is about love and relationships, and the goal here is not to have to continue to broaden social skills, interpersonal skills. And so if you send me an email, you have a request, you have a desire, and you have an outcome, that means there's something serious burning in your heart that you want. And I want to connect you with a Monday, right? There's so many Mondays in the year. We do this consistently, but I want you to be aligned to the very outcome that you can get. I want you to be in a safe space where you can actually be connected to the people you want to be around, and particularly the kind of men you want to be with or the kind of women you want to be with, but then be able to leave with something tangible, not where, people can judge you or you got a crowded audience of people just staring at you. So this is a very, very novel platform. And I love that I have creative control to kind of make it a very invite exclusionary process. So definitely connect with me, get at me. I'm very accessible, and it's just, it's that simple.
All right. Thank you so much to both of our panelists who are still here, and also to Femi, who had to hop. I think this conversation will bring a lot of enlightenment as to some of the challenges and potential solutions to how we navigate finding love, connection, and devotion as Black millennials. So thank you everyone for your time. And until the next episode of Unscripted Conversations, talk to you soon. Bye.